travel does something powerful to your mind. It interrupts routine. It challenges assumptions. It stretches comfort zones. It forces adaptation. When you stay in one place too long, your perspective narrows. The same streets, the same conversations, the same cultural norms. And slowly, you begin to believe your environment is the entire world. But the moment you step into a new country, hear a different language, taste unfamiliar food, navigate unknown streets, your brain expands. Travel is not escape. It is education. It teaches adaptability. It builds independence. It creates humility. It strengthens confidence. And most importantly, the more you understand the world, the more you understand yourself. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Expanding horizons through new countries. There's a subtle illusion that forms when you stay in one environment for too long. The streets become familiar. The language becomes automatic. The social rules feel natural. And slowly, without noticing it, you begin to believe that this version of reality is normal everywhere. But the moment you step into a new country, that illusion begins to dissolve. The airport announcements sound different. The signs look unfamiliar. The rhythm of conversation changes. And in that moment of disorientation, your mind begins to expand. Traveling to a new country is not just movement across geography. It is movement across perspective. You begin to realize that normal is relative. What feels ordinary in one culture may feel unusual in another. Mealtimes shift. Greetings differ. Concepts of punctuality change. Even silence holds different meanings. This exposure challenges unconscious assumptions you did not even know you had. There is a powerful quote by St. Augustine. "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." When you visit a new country, you turn a page. And with every page turned, your understanding deepens. You see how societies solve problems differently, how communities organize themselves, how traditions shape behavior. This comparison does not create judgment. It creates awareness. Cultural diversity strengthens adaptability. When you navigate a country where you do not speak the language fluently, your communication skills sharpen. You rely on gestures, facial expressions, tone. You become more observant. You pay attention to context instead of relying only on words. This builds emotional intelligence. Adaptability grows quickly in unfamiliar environments. You learn to read maps in different formats. You understand transportation systems with different rules. You order food you cannot fully pronounce. Each successful adaptation builds confidence, and that confidence transfers back into your daily life. Another powerful shift occurs in humility. When you realize how many ways there are to live, think, and behave, your sense of certainty softens. You understand that your upbringing shaped your beliefs, but it is not the only way to see the world. This humility strengthens open-mindedness. Exposure to global diversity also improves problem-solving flexibility. You observe how different countries approach education, public transport, architecture, social interaction. You begin to see alternative systems. This broadens your thinking. Traveling internationally also builds resilience. Things will go wrong. Delayed flights, misunderstood directions, currency confusion. But when you solve these challenges independently, your stress tolerance increases. There is also a powerful sensory expansion. New countries stimulate your senses in unfamiliar ways. Spices taste stronger. Street sounds carry different rhythms. Architecture reveals different design philosophies. These sensory shifts refresh mental patterns. Another overlooked benefit is gratitude recalibration. When you see how others live, both more simply and more abundantly, your appreciation for your own environment shifts. You may return home noticing conveniences you previously ignored. Travel also builds independence within structure. You must plan responsibly, respect local laws, follow cultural norms. This builds global awareness and responsible citizenship. There's also the impact of diversity exposure on empathy. When you witness lives different from yours, different struggles, different celebrations, empathy increases. Empathy strengthens emotional intelligence. International travel also increases mental flexibility. Research in cognitive psychology shows that exposure to multiple cultures improves creative thinking and problem-solving capacity. Another important factor is identity expansion. You are not only your hometown, not only your country. You are a global citizen capable of navigating different worlds. This identity expansion increases confidence. Ask yourself reflection questions. Have I allowed my environment to define my worldview completely? When was the last time I felt slightly uncomfortable in a new cultural setting? Do I see differences as threats or learning opportunities? Because visiting a new country is not about collecting passport stamps. It is about expanding perception. Because perception shapes thinking, and thinking shapes decisions. Because when you see multiple ways of living, you realize flexibility is strength. Because narrow exposure narrows belief. Wide exposure expands belief. Because in the end, travel does not only change where you are, it changes how you think. Because when you walk through unfamiliar streets, you learn to trust yourself in uncertainty. When you communicate across language gaps, you learn patience. When you observe traditions different from yours, you learn respect. And one day, you may forget specific hotel rooms, but you will remember the feeling of navigating a foreign city successfully. You will remember the first time you understood a cultural gesture without words. You will remember realizing that the world is far larger and far more diverse than you once assumed. Because new countries expand not only your passport, they expand your mind. And the real question is not whether other cultures exist beyond your borders. They do. The real question is, will you stay within familiar frameworks? Or will you step into new countries that challenge your assumptions, stretch your adaptability, and reshape how you understand both the world and yourself? Chapter 2, Solo Travel and Self-Discovery. There's a different kind of silence that appears when you travel alone. No familiar voice beside you. No shared decision-making. No one to lean on when plans shift unexpectedly. At first, this silence can feel intimidating, but gradually it becomes empowering. Solo travel is not just movement across places. It is movement inward. It is a direct conversation between you and your capability. When you travel with others, responsibility is shared. Decisions are discussed. Uncertainty is diluted. But when you travel alone, every choice becomes yours. Where to go, what to eat, which route to take, how to handle mistakes. This responsibility builds independence rapidly. You begin trusting your judgment more deeply because you have no choice but to rely on it. There's a powerful quote by Paul Thoreau: "Travel is glamorous only in retrospect." Solo travel especially proves this truth. In the moment, it can be challenging. You may feel lost. You may feel uncertain. But each solved challenge becomes a memory of growth. And growth compounds. Decision-making improves dramatically during solo travel. When you are in unfamiliar territory, your brain becomes alert. You analyze situations quickly. You assess safety. You plan efficiently. This sharpens cognitive awareness. It strengthens mental clarity. Another powerful benefit is emotional resilience. There will be moments of loneliness, moments of doubt. But when you sit with those feelings and move forward anyway, you learn emotional self-regulation. You discover that loneliness is temporary. Uncertainty is manageable. And fear does not require retreat. Solo travel also builds confidence in navigating the unknown. When you successfully manage a foreign transportation system alone or communicate in a language you barely know, you prove to yourself that you are capable. That proof changes how you see yourself. There is also freedom in solitude. Without the need to coordinate schedules, you move at your own pace. You linger where you feel curious. You leave when you feel complete. This autonomy builds clarity about personal preferences. Another powerful shift is heightened awareness. Without conversation as distraction, you observe more. You notice architecture details. You hear tone shifts in language. You feel subtle changes in environment. Presence increases. Solo travel also strengthens intuition. You learn to trust small signals. If a place feels unsafe, you adjust. If a direction feels wrong, you reconsider. Intuition grows stronger when exercised. There's also personal identity discovery. When no one around you knows your history, your role, or your reputation, you're free to simply be. You can experiment with new behaviors, new conversations, new confidence levels. This freedom reveals aspects of your personality you may not access at home. Another benefit is adaptability under pressure. When flights are delayed or accommodations change unexpectedly, there is no shared blame, only solution. This builds proactive thinking. Solo travel also enhances gratitude. When you solve problems independently, you appreciate your own strength. When you return home, familiar comforts feel earned. There is also courage expansion. Booking the trip alone is itself an act of bravery. Each step afterward reinforces that courage. Another overlooked advantage is reflection space. Solo evenings create time for journaling, thinking, reassessing life direction. Many people make significant life decisions during solo travel because clarity increases. Ask yourself reflection questions. When was the last time I relied entirely on myself in unfamiliar conditions? Do I avoid solitude because it feels uncomfortable? What might I discover about myself without familiar surroundings? Because solo travel is not about isolation. It is about empowerment. Because independence is not declared. It is developed. Because when you navigate the world alone, you rewrite internal narratives. You stop seeing yourself as dependent. You begin seeing yourself as capable. Because comfort zones shrink when challenged, and self-belief grows when tested. Because one successful solo journey creates mental evidence that you can handle more than you assumed. And one day, you will not only remember the places you visited, you will remember the moment you realized you did not need constant reassurance. You will remember standing alone in a foreign city, feeling both uncertain and alive. You will remember solving a problem and thinking, I can handle this. Because travel is education, but solo travel is self-education. It teaches you who you are when no one else defines you. It reveals strengths you did not know existed. And the real question is not whether traveling alone is challenging. It is. The real question is, will you wait until you feel completely ready? Or will you trust yourself enough to step into uncertainty alone and discover that independence, resilience, and confidence were always waiting to be developed? Chapter 3. Exploring your own homeland deeply. There's a common misconception about travel, that adventure only exists beyond borders, that growth only happens in foreign lands, that perspective expands only when languages change. But often, the most overlooked exploration is the one closest to you. Your own homeland carries layers of history, culture, landscapes, and stories that you may have never fully experienced. Exploring your own country deeply is not a lesser version of travel. It is a rediscovery of identity. When you live in one place for a long time, familiarity creates blindness. Streets become background. Traditions become routine. Local landmarks become ordinary. You assume you already know your country because you reside in it. But residence is not the same as exploration. To truly understand your homeland, you must approach it with curiosity instead of assumption. There is a powerful quote by T.S. Eliot. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Exploring your own homeland often creates exactly this experience. You return to places you thought you understood, but now you see depth where you once saw routine. Hidden gems often exist just a few hours away. Small towns with rich history. Natural landscapes you never visited. Cultural festivals you never attended. Traditional cuisines you never tasted fully. When you travel locally with intentional curiosity, you uncover richness that routine living often hides. Exploring your homeland builds identity awareness. You begin to understand where your cultural habits originated, why certain values exist, why certain traditions matter. This deepens self-understanding. Culture shapes identity silently. When you examine culture consciously, you strengthen your connection to it. Local travel also strengthens gratitude. When you witness the diversity within your own country, mountains, rivers, historical sites, architectural styles, appreciation increases. You realize how much exists close to you without requiring international flights. Another powerful benefit is contextual understanding. Visiting historical landmarks within your country makes history tangible. Instead of reading about events abstractly, you stand where they occurred. This builds emotional connection to your heritage. Exploring your homeland also strengthens empathy within diversity. Most countries contain multiple subcultures, languages, or regional differences. Traveling domestically reveals that diversity exists even within shared borders. This expands tolerance and understanding. There's also a practical advantage. Domestic travel often requires less logistical complexity than international travel. This allows more frequent exploration. Frequent exploration builds continuous growth. Another important benefit is financial accessibility. Exploring locally can often be done more affordably, removing the excuse that travel is unattainable. Growth does not require distance. It requires curiosity. Exploring your homeland also builds pride, not blind pride, but informed pride. When you understand your country's achievements, struggles, and evolution, you appreciate its complexity. There is also perspective recalibration. Many people romanticize distant places while ignoring local beauty. When you explore locally, you correct that imbalance. Another powerful effect is connection strengthening. Traveling domestically with family or friends builds shared understanding of cultural roots. Exploring your homeland also enhances storytelling. When you understand regional histories and traditions, conversations become richer. You become more connected to your narrative. There is also resilience training. Even local travel introduces unfamiliarity. New cities, new dialects, new customs. Adaptability still grows. Another overlooked benefit is slowing down. Without the urgency of international itinerary pressure, local travel can feel more relaxed. You observe more deeply. Ask yourself reflection questions. Have I explored my homeland intentionally? Or do I assume I already know it? When did I last visit a place within my country purely out of curiosity? What cultural layers have I ignored? Because adventure does not begin at airports. It begins with intention. Because growth is not measured by distance traveled. It is measured by perspective gained. Because when you explore your homeland deeply, you connect past to present. You understand your roots. And roots create stability. Because identity awareness strengthens confidence. And confidence strengthens clarity. Because in the end, international travel may expand your worldview, but local exploration expands your self-understanding. Because one day, you may travel across oceans, but you will still carry your homeland within you. The more you understand it, the more grounded you feel. And grounded people navigate the world with greater stability. Because exploration is not about escaping where you are from. It is about understanding it fully. And the real question is not whether adventure exists in distant lands. It does. The real question is, will you overlook the richness of your own homeland? Or will you explore it with fresh eyes, discovering that sometimes the most meaningful journeys begin exactly where you started? Chapter 4. Learning through historical landmarks. There is a difference between reading history and standing inside it. You can memorize dates. You can understand timelines. You can study events in textbooks. But when you stand before an ancient fort, walk through a centuries-old temple, or step into a battlefield where history unfolded, something changes. History stops being information. It becomes experience. Historical landmarks are not just tourist attractions. They are physical memories. They hold stories carved into stone, whispered through architecture, and preserved through generations. When you visit them, you connect to people who lived before you, people who struggled, built, fought, dreamed, and shaped the world you now inhabit. There's a powerful quote by Marcus Garvey. A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Visiting historical landmarks strengthens those roots. It builds contextual awareness. It helps you understand how your present environment came to exist. When you walk through ancient cities, you begin to feel time differently. Massive structures built without modern technology reveal human capability beyond convenience. You realize that progress did not happen overnight. It was built through effort, conflict, innovation, and persistence. Seeing past civilizations physically also builds humility. Empires that once seemed unstoppable eventually declined. Leaders who once commanded power now exist only in inscriptions. This reminds you that time moves forward relentlessly. It reduces arrogance and increases perspective. Another powerful benefit is intellectual depth. When you stand in front of historical monuments, curiosity increases. You ask deeper questions. Why was this built? What cultural forces shaped it? What lessons does this era teach us? History becomes personal instead of abstract. Historical travel also strengthens critical thinking. You begin comparing different time periods. You notice patterns, rise and fall, innovation and resistance, conflict and cooperation. These patterns help you interpret modern events more wisely. There is also emotional impact. Visiting memorials or sites of significant sacrifice often creates reflection. Gratitude increases. Awareness of struggle deepens. Empathy strengthens. Another overlooked advantage is identity clarity. Understanding the history of your region or country builds a stronger sense of belonging. You see yourself as part of a longer narrative. Historical landmarks also build intergenerational connection. When you visit these sites with family, stories are shared. Cultural values are reinforced. Memory becomes collective. There's also the impact of scale. Ancient architecture often feels monumental. Standing before massive walls or intricate carvings built centuries ago creates awe. Awe increases respect for human creativity. Another benefit is contrast awareness. When you compare ancient infrastructure with modern development, you recognize progress and remaining challenges. This balanced view strengthens appreciation and realism. Historical exploration also enhances storytelling ability. When you understand context, your conversations carry more depth. Another important factor is patience development. Many historical sites require walking, observing, reading plaques. Slower pace encourages mindfulness. Ask yourself reflection questions. Have I stood inside spaces where history unfolded? Do I understand the origins of my environment deeply? What lessons from past civilizations can I apply today? Because historical landmarks are not about nostalgia. They are about perspective. Because perspective shapes judgment, and judgment shapes decisions. Because when you understand how societies rose and fell, you think differently about your own path. Because progress feels more meaningful when you understand the effort behind it. And humility grows when you realize your generation is one chapter in a much larger story. Because in the end, history is not distant. It is foundation. And when you walk through that foundation physically, you strengthen your connection to time. Because one day, you may forget specific details from textbooks, but you will remember the feeling of standing before an ancient structure. You will remember imagining the lives lived within those walls. You will remember realizing that human struggle and ambition have always existed, because travel is education. But historical travel is perspective training. It reminds you that civilizations evolve, that ideas shift, that resilience shapes survival. And the real question is not whether history exists around you. It does. The real question is, will you treat it as background scenery, or will you step into it, listen to its lessons, and allow the past to sharpen your understanding of the present and guide your decisions for the future? Chapter 5, Building Cross-Cultural Intelligence. Travel is not tourism. Tourism observes. Travel adapts. Tourism consumes experiences. Travel absorbs them. When you move across borders physically but refuse to adjust mentally, you remain a spectator. But when you enter a new culture with humility, curiosity, and awareness, you begin building something far more valuable than memories. You begin building cross-cultural intelligence. Cross-cultural intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and adapt to different value systems, behaviors, and social norms without immediate judgment. It is not about abandoning your identity. It is about expanding it. It is about learning how to function effectively in environments shaped by beliefs different from your own. The first lesson in cultural intelligence is observation before assertion. When you enter a new country, your instincts may push you to compare. This is slower than home. This system is inefficient. Why don't they do it differently? But comparison often blocks understanding. Observation opens it. Notice how people greet one another. Is eye contact direct or subtle? Are handshakes firm or light? Do conversations begin formally or casually? These small details reveal deep cultural frameworks. Communication styles vary widely across cultures. In some societies, communication is direct and explicit. In others, it is indirect and context-driven. Silence may signal disagreement in one culture and respect in another. Without awareness, misinterpretation becomes easy. Time perception also differs. Some cultures operate on strict punctuality, where arriving late is disrespectful. Others operate with flexible timing, where relationships matter more than the clock. If you impose your own time standards without awareness, frustration grows. If you observe first, patience develops. Hierarchy structures also vary. In some societies, authority is questioned openly. In others, respect for elders or leaders is deeply embedded. Understanding these frameworks improves your ability to interact respectfully. Hospitality expectations differ too. In certain cultures, refusing food may be considered impolite. In others, personal space is valued more highly. Cultural intelligence requires reading these nuances. There is a powerful quote by anthropologist Margaret Mead. If we are to achieve a richer culture, we must weave one in which each diverse human gift will find a fitting place. Cross-cultural intelligence is the weaving process. It connects difference without forcing sameness. The ability to adapt respectfully instead of demanding comfort is a mark of maturity. When you expect environments to mirror your own preferences, you limit growth. When you adapt, you expand. Spending time with locals accelerates this growth. Tourists often remain within curated experiences, but local markets, public transportation, neighborhood cafes, these spaces reveal authentic rhythms of daily life. Ask questions with curiosity, not judgment. Instead of saying, "Why do you do it this way?" say, "Can you help me understand how this works here?" The tone of curiosity invites dialogue. The tone of judgment closes it. Cross-cultural intelligence also strengthens leadership ability. Leaders who understand diverse value systems communicate more effectively across teams. They negotiate with awareness. They avoid cultural blind spots. In professional settings, cultural misunderstandings can damage partnerships. Emotional intelligence across cultures prevents unnecessary conflict. Another powerful benefit is internal growth. When your assumptions are challenged daily, rigidity softens. You begin recognizing how your upbringing shaped your worldview. That recognition builds humility. Reflect daily during travel. Ask yourself, what assumption of mine was challenged today? Did I react defensively or reflectively? What can I learn from this difference? Cross-cultural intelligence also strengthens negotiation skill. Understanding how different cultures approach agreement, whether through formal contracts or relationship building, improves strategic thinking. Another overlooked advantage is empathy expansion. When you see how people structure life differently, you become less reactive to difference at home. There's also identity resilience. When you adapt respectfully without losing your core values, you strengthen self-awareness. Cross-cultural intelligence turns you from a passive traveler into a globally aware thinker. You stop seeing differences as inconveniences. You start seeing them as insights. Because the world does not need more observers. It needs more adapters. Because adaptation builds connection, and connection builds influence. Because influence requires understanding, and understanding requires humility. Because when you step into different value systems without fear, you strengthen emotional maturity. And emotional maturity strengthens leadership. Because in the end, travel is not about how many countries you visit. It is about how many perspectives you learn to navigate respectfully. Because every culture contains wisdom, and wisdom expands those willing to listen. And one day, you may forget certain itineraries, but you will remember moments when your assumptions shifted. You will remember conversations that change your viewpoint. You will remember realizing that your way is one way, not the only way. Because cross-cultural intelligence is not a travel souvenir. It is a lifelong asset. It shapes how you lead, how you negotiate, how you communicate, how you understand humanity itself. And the real question is not whether cultural differences exist. They do. The real question is, will you move through the world expecting it to adjust to you? Or will you build the intelligence, humility, and adaptability that allow you to navigate diverse value systems with respect, awareness, and strength? Chapter 6. Experiencing luxury travel intentionally. Luxury travel is often misunderstood. Some see it as indulgence. Some see it as unnecessary. Some see it as status display. But when experienced intentionally, luxury travel is not about showing wealth. It is about experiencing excellence. It is about understanding what refined service, thoughtful design, and elevated environments feel like. And when done consciously, not impulsively, luxury travel can shift your standards, reward your discipline, and deepen your appreciation for quality. There's a powerful quote by Coco Chanel: "Luxury must be comfortable, otherwise it is not luxury." True luxury is not excess. It is ease. It is seamlessness. It is walking into a space where everything has been designed with care, where service anticipates your needs, where environment reduces stress instead of adding to it. When you experience luxury travel intentionally, you train your senses to recognize detail. The quietness of a well-designed room, the precision of hospitality, the balance of flavors in fine dining. These experiences sharpen awareness. They teach you what excellence feels like. Luxury also creates space. Space to think. Space to breathe. Space to reflect. In high-quality environments, distractions are minimized. Comfort supports clarity. When you're not worrying about logistics, noise, or inconvenience, your mind relaxes. Relaxed minds think better. There's also a powerful psychological shift that happens when you reward yourself after disciplined effort. If luxury travel is tied to achievement, completing a major goal, building financial stability, finishing a challenging project, it becomes celebration, not consumption. Celebration reinforces positive behavior. Luxury travel also resets standards. Once you experience high-quality service or exceptional design, You become more aware of mediocrity. This awareness can elevate expectations not only in travel, but in your work, your habits, and your lifestyle. Another important benefit is exposure to excellence cultures. Many luxury destinations prioritize precision, punctuality, and hospitality deeply. Observing these systems can inspire improvements in your own professional or personal standards. Luxury travel also teaches balance. It reminds you that while growth requires discomfort sometimes, rest requires comfort. Recovery strengthens resilience. Intentionally stepping into environments that nurture you is not weakness. It is strategic restoration. There is also gratitude deepening. When you experience comfort consciously, you appreciate it more. Gratitude increases satisfaction. Satisfaction reduces constant chasing. Another powerful element is memory quality. Luxury environments often create vivid, refined memories, peaceful mornings, exceptional meals, attentive service. These memories become anchors during stressful times. Luxury travel also builds discernment. You begin to understand difference between price and value. True luxury is not always the most expensive option. It is the most thoughtful one. Another benefit is exposure to high-performing individuals. Many luxury spaces host ambitious, driven people. Observing their behavior can expand your network and mindset. However, intentional luxury also requires discipline. It should not create debt or financial stress. True luxury feels light, not burdensome. It should align with long-term goals, not sabotage them. There's also symbolic power. Staying in a well-designed space signals to your mind that you are worthy of comfort. This reinforces self-respect. Another overlooked advantage is contrast appreciation. After experiencing luxury, returning to simplicity feels different. You appreciate both more fully. Ask yourself reflection questions. Do I avoid comfort out of guilt? Do I indulge impulsively without intention? Can I reward myself strategically without compromising discipline? Because luxury is not about excess. It is about excellence. Because excellence inspires improvement, and improvement fuels growth. Because intentional comfort restores energy, and restored energy enhances performance. Because in the end, life is not only about constant striving. It is also about moments of celebration. Moments when you pause and acknowledge progress. Because when you experience refined environments, you begin to think differently about what is possible. Because high standards influence behavior, and behavior shapes results. And one day, you may forget specific room numbers or menus, but you will remember how you felt. Calm, appreciated, restored. Because travel is expansion, and expansion includes understanding both challenge and comfort. Because growth is not only built through hardship, it is sustained through recovery. And the real question is not whether luxury exists. It does. The real question is, will you chase it blindly as a symbol? Or will you experience it intentionally as a reward, a reset, and a reminder that quality, when aligned with discipline, strengthens both gratitude and ambition? Chapter 7. Mastering Smart Budget Travel. There's a powerful misconception that travel requires excess money. That meaningful experiences are reserved only for those who can afford premium flights, luxury hotels, and unlimited spending. But some of the most transformative journeys are built not on excess, but on strategy. Smart budget travel is not about deprivation. It is about creativity, discipline, and resourcefulness. It proves that adventure is driven more by mindset than by money. There is a powerful quote by travel writer Rick Steves. Travel is rich with learning opportunities, and the ultimate souvenir is a broader perspective. Notice what he emphasizes: perspective, not price. Budget travel forces you to focus on experience rather than status. It encourages connection over comfort, presence over luxury. When you travel on a budget intentionally, you become strategic. You research transportation options. You compare accommodations. You learn public transit systems instead of relying on convenient services. This builds planning skill. Planning strengthens executive thinking, the ability to allocate resources wisely. Budget travel also increases adaptability. When you cannot solve every inconvenience with money, you solve it with problem solving. You negotiate. You adjust. You improvise. Improvisation builds resilience. Another powerful benefit is deeper local immersion. Budget travelers often stay in locally owned guest houses, eat at small neighborhood restaurants, and use shared transportation. This creates authentic exposure to culture. You see daily life more closely. Resource management becomes a skill. You track expenses. You evaluate value. You prioritize experiences over impulse purchases. These habits strengthen financial awareness beyond travel. There's also psychological empowerment in knowing you can explore the world without extreme spending. It removes the excuse of "I'll travel when I'm rich." It reinforces the idea that expansion is accessible. Budget travel also builds gratitude. When you choose simpler accommodations or meals, you appreciate small comforts deeply. Gratitude enhances satisfaction. Another important element is social connection. Budget travel often places you in shared spaces, hostels, community tours, public transport, where conversation happens naturally. These interactions often create lasting friendships. There is also courage development. Navigating unfamiliar places without premium convenience services builds confidence. Another overlooked benefit is creativity activation. When funds are limited, you look for free walking tours, public parks, cultural events, community festivals. You become more curious. Budget travel also strengthens independence. You rely on yourself rather than on package tours. Another powerful effect is perspective reset. You realize that meaningful memories are often created by conversations, sunsets, and exploration, not by expensive amenities. There is also long-term financial discipline reinforcement. If you plan and execute a successful budget trip, you prove to yourself that strategic money use creates opportunity. Budget travel also removes pressure. When you're not trying to justify high expenses, you feel freer to enjoy small experiences. Another key principle is value clarity. Budget travelers learn to differentiate between what is worth spending on and what is not. Ask yourself reflection questions. Do I delay experiences because I assume they are unaffordable? Do I equate quality with price? Can I plan creatively instead of spending impulsively? Because budget travel is not about limitation. It is about intentional allocation. Because money is a tool, and tools require skill. Because when you travel smartly, you expand your world without shrinking your financial stability. Because discipline increases freedom, not restriction. Because in the end, experiences do not measure your bank account. They measure your curiosity. Because the street food conversation may be more memorable than a five-star dining hall. Because the sunrise from a public viewpoint may feel richer than a private balcony. Because what matters most is presence. And presence is free. And one day, you may forget how much you spent, but you will remember navigating a foreign city confidently. You will remember solving unexpected challenges creatively. You will remember realizing that exploration belongs to those who plan, not only those who spend. Because adventure does not require extravagance. It requires intention. Because growth does not depend on price tags. It depends on exposure. And the real question is not whether travel can be expensive. It can. The real question is, will you wait for perfect financial conditions? Or will you master smart budget strategies that allow you to explore responsibly, grow confidently, and prove that creativity often expands your world more than excess ever could? Chapter 8. Spiritual Retreats and Inner Reset. There comes a point in life when external travel is not enough. You can change cities, countries, landscapes, but if your mind remains crowded, restless, and overstimulated, the transformation feels incomplete. Spiritual retreats are not about religion necessarily. They're about pause, about stepping away from noise long enough to hear your own thoughts clearly. They are about intentional stillness in a world that rewards constant movement. There's a powerful quote by Rumi: "The quieter you become, the more you are able to hear." Modern life rarely allows quiet. Notifications interrupt reflection. Conversations fill silence. Work occupies mental space. Over time, this constant stimulation fragments attention and weakens clarity. Spiritual retreats restore mental coherence. A retreat does not need to be extreme. It may be a meditation center in the mountains, a silent retreat by the ocean, a wellness center focused on mindfulness, or even a structured personal retreat where you disconnect from devices and responsibilities intentionally. The key is removal from routine and deliberate inward focus. Silence is the first teacher. In silence, distractions disappear. Without conversation or entertainment, your thoughts rise to the surface. At first, this can feel uncomfortable, but as you sit with it, you begin to observe your mental patterns. You notice repetitive worries. You recognize emotional triggers. Awareness increases. Another powerful benefit is emotional reset. When you slow down, your nervous system begins to regulate. Breathing deepens. Muscles relax. Stress hormones decrease. This physiological shift improves mental stability. Spiritual retreats also strengthen presence. Many retreats incorporate meditation, mindful walking, or breath awareness practices. These train your mind to stay anchored in the present moment. Presence reduces anxiety about future uncertainties. There is also clarity generation. Without constant input, your mind begins organizing itself. Decisions that once felt complicated become simpler. Priorities become clearer. Another overlooked advantage is value reassessment. When removed from social pressure and productivity demands, you begin questioning what truly matters. Are you pursuing goals aligned with your authentic self, or reacting to expectations? Spiritual retreats also rebuild discipline. Meditation requires consistency. Silence requires patience. These practices strengthen focus muscle. There is also humility development. In stillness, you confront your own limitations. Ego softens. Perspective expands. Another powerful benefit is emotional resilience. When you observe emotions without reacting impulsively, you strengthen self-control. Spiritual retreats also enhance gratitude. Simple experiences, a sunrise, a quiet meal, a shared meditation, feel meaningful. Another important factor is nervous system healing. Chronic stress weakens immune function and cognitive performance. Retreat environments often emphasize rest, nutritious food, and gentle activity. There's also community bonding in group retreats. Shared silence or shared intention creates subtle but strong connection. Spiritual retreats also sharpen intuition. When noise decreases, inner voice becomes clearer. Another overlooked benefit is habit reset. Distance from routine makes it easier to evaluate habits objectively. Ask yourself reflection questions. When was the last time I experienced extended silence? Do I fear being alone with my thoughts? What would I hear if distractions disappeared? Because spiritual retreats are not escape. They are return. Return to yourself. Because growth is not only external expansion, it is internal alignment. Because when your inner world stabilizes, external challenges feel manageable. Because clarity reduces overreaction, and calm strengthens decision-making. Because in the end, travel changes scenery, but spiritual retreat changes perception. Because when you disconnect intentionally, you reconnect deeply. And one day, you may forget specific schedules, but you will remember the quiet morning where your thoughts felt organized. You will remember breathing deeply without urgency. You will remember realizing that stillness is not emptiness. It is strength. Because adventure includes movement, but also includes pause. Because without pause, movement loses meaning. And the real question is not whether you can survive constant stimulation. You can. The real question is, will you create space to reset your mind, realign your values, and strengthen your inner stability? Or will you continue moving outward without ever returning inward to recalibrate who you are becoming? Chapter 9. Witnessing Natural Wonders and Awe. There are moments in life when words become insufficient. You stand at the edge of a vast canyon. You watch the sun disappear behind a mountain range. You hear the thunder of a massive waterfall echo through the air. And for a brief second, your thoughts stop. Your internal dialogue pauses. You are simply present, small, silent, aware. That feeling is awe, and awe changes you. Natural wonders are not just beautiful locations. They are perspective disruptors. They interrupt ego. They interrupt routine thinking. They remind you that your daily concerns exist within a much larger system of time, geology, and life. When you stand before something ancient and immense, your scale recalibrates. There's a powerful quote by astronomer Carl Sagan. Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known. Natural wonders embody this truth. They represent forces that existed long before you and will continue long after you. Mountains formed over millions of years. Oceans shaped continents. Deserts evolved through relentless wind. When you witness these forces directly, you understand time differently. Awe has measurable psychological effects. Research shows that experiencing awe reduces stress, increases generosity, and strengthens life satisfaction. Why? Because awe reduces self-centered thinking. When you feel small in a positive way, in the presence of something vast, your personal problems shrink proportionally. Natural wonders also build gratitude. When you see vibrant forests or clear, turquoise waters, you appreciate the planet's complexity. Gratitude enhances emotional stability. Another powerful benefit is silence generation. Many people become quiet in front of natural wonders, not because they are told to be silent, but because speech feels unnecessary. That silence strengthens reflection. Witnessing nature at scale also strengthens humility. You realize you are part of something bigger, not separate from it. This reduces arrogance and increases respect. There's also resilience training embedded in natural observation. Mountains endure storms. Rivers carve through rock persistently. Trees survive harsh winters and bloom again. Nature models persistence. Natural wonders also inspire ambition. Seeing vast landscapes often awakens desire for bigger goals. When your perspective expands physically, your thinking expands mentally. Another overlooked advantage is sensory awakening. The roar of waterfalls, the scent of forests, the warmth of desert air. These sensory experiences anchor memory deeply. Natural also strengthens presence. In front of something breathtaking, distractions lose power. You're fully engaged in the moment. There's also creativity activation. Many artists, writers, and thinkers have found inspiration in natural landscapes. Exposure to grandeur stimulates imagination. Another important factor is gratitude for stability. After witnessing powerful natural forces, everyday safety feels more meaningful. Witnessing natural wonders also strengthens environmental awareness. Appreciation often leads to protection. Another powerful element is shared awe bonding. Experiencing natural beauty with others deepens connection. Ask yourself reflection questions. When was the last time I felt truly small in a positive way? Do I allow myself to experience awe fully, or do I rush past it for photos? How often do I expose myself to environments that silence my ego? Because awe is not weakness. It is expansion. Because when you feel small in front of something vast, you gain perspective. And perspective reduces unnecessary stress, because daily life often magnifies minor issues. Natural scale corrects that magnification, because when you see a canyon stretching beyond sight, deadlines feel manageable. When you watch stars fill a dark sky, worries soften, because in the end, natural wonders do not change your circumstances. They change your perception, and perception shapes reaction, because all increases gratitude. Gratitude increases contentment. Contentment increases stability. And one day, you may forget many routine days, but you will remember standing before a vast ocean horizon. You will remember the moment sunlight painted mountains gold. You will remember feeling quiet inside, because travel is not only about movement. It is about transformation, and awe transforms gently but permanently. Because when you realize the world is vast and beautiful beyond imagination, you stop believing that your routine is the entire story. And the real question is not whether natural wonders exist. They do. The real question is, will you seek them intentionally, allow them to humble you, and let our recalibrate your perspective? Or will you remain within walls that never remind you how expansive life truly is? Chapter 10. Designing your travel vision and bucket list. Travel dreams are powerful. Almost everyone has them. One day I'll visit that country. One day I'll see that monument. One day I'll take that trip. But without structure, dreams fade into background noise. Years pass. Responsibilities grow. And the one day becomes distant. Designing your travel vision and writing a deliberate bucket list transforms vague desire into intentional direction. There is a powerful quote by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry: "A goal without a plan is just a wish." Travel is no different. When you write your travel goals down, they shift from imagination to commitment. They become targets rather than fantasies. Designing a travel vision begins with clarity. What kind of experiences do you want? Cultural immersion? Natural wonders? Historical exploration? Adventure challenges? Luxury retreats? Spiritual resets? Without clarity, travel becomes random. With clarity, it becomes aligned with growth. A written bucket list activates psychological commitment. Research in behavioral science consistently shows that written goals increase follow-through. When you see your travel vision on paper, it feels real. It becomes measurable. Another powerful benefit is prioritization. The world is vast. You cannot visit everywhere immediately. Designing a list forces you to rank what matters most. Travel vision also creates motivation. When daily work feels repetitive, having a clear travel target adds purpose. Another important factor is timeline creation. Dreams without timelines remain indefinite. When you assign approximate years or seasons to travel goals, momentum increases. Designing your list also encourages financial planning. Instead of spending impulsively, you allocate resources intentionally toward experiences. There is also identity shaping power. Your travel list reflects your curiosity. It represents who you want to become through exposure. Another powerful benefit is accountability. When you share your travel goals with trusted friends or family, you increase likelihood of action. Designing your travel vision also prevents regret. Many people later regret not traveling when they had the chance. Another overlooked advantage is balance building. A well-designed list may include both ambitious international goals and local exploration goals. There is also flexibility integration. Your list should evolve as you grow. Vision is dynamic. Another powerful element is anticipation. Anticipation itself increases happiness. Planning trips releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to reward. Designing your list also encourages research. Learning about destinations before visiting deepens appreciation. Another key principle is intentional scheduling. Experiences require space and calendar. Ask yourself reflection questions. Have I written my travel goals clearly? Do I wait for perfect timing instead of creating it? What destinations align with my growth goals? Because travel is not accidental. It is designed. Because intention transforms movement into meaning. Because without direction, time passes quietly. With direction, time builds memory. Because in the end, life is measured not only by achievements, but by experiences. Because when you plan intentionally, you ensure experiences happen. And one day, you may look at your bucket list and realize you crossed off places you once thought impossible. You will remember the excitement of planning, the courage of booking, the fulfillment of completion. Because destinations matter, but commitment matters more. Because when you design your travel vision, you design your expansion. And the real question is not whether the world offers infinite places to explore. It does. The real question is, will you leave your travel dreams undefined and distant? Or will you write them clearly, schedule them intentionally, and turn your bucket list into a roadmap for growth, perspective, and lifelong transformation? Travel changes you quietly, not because you moved, but because you adapted, because you faced uncertainty, because you communicated across differences, because you saw that the world is larger than your routine. The more you travel, the more flexible your thinking becomes, the more resilient your mindset becomes, the more grateful your perspective becomes. Travel teaches you that comfort is optional. Growth comes from exposure. Exposure to new ideas, new cultures, new environments, new challenges. And one day, you will realize something powerful. The destinations mattered, but the transformation mattered more. Because every journey leaves a mark. And the more places you explore, the more versions of yourself you discover. And now the question is not whether the world is waiting to be explored. It is. The real question is, will you stay within familiar borders, or will you expand beyond them?